Hi, it's Donna from the library, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Book Book Talks. A couple weeks ago, I talked to you about a book called We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker, and I said that that book was probably my favorite book that I've read in the past 5 years, and I'm sticking by that. But I was kind of curious about the author, Chris Whitaker, and where he came from and what he's known for. And in doing a little bit of research, I found that he had an earlier book called Tall Oaks. So I thought, well, geez, I'm going to buy that book for the library and see if it compares at all to We Begin at the End. So, my opinion. I loved We Begin at the End, and I loved this book. Tall Oaks is a small town. I'm not really sure what state it's in. And at the core of this story is the disappearance of a young 3 or 4-year-old boy, Harry Monroe. He disappeared from his bedroom. His mother had a baby monitor camera, camera in his room, and she had a hard time sleeping, so she kept an eye on him all the time. He seemed all right to be left alone in his room, but she had a hard time leaving him there. She's recently separated from her husband, Michael, and having a little bit of an anxiety issue, so she kind of takes it out on the kid. So she looks at the baby monitor and sees in the rocking chair in the corner of his room a clown who spoke to her. So she got up and ran to the room, but by the time she got there, the clown and her son were gone. And that's kind of the center of this whole story, is like what happened to Harry Monroe and how could something like this happen in a small town like Tall Oaks. So I think the best part about this book is all of the lives. Once again, Chris Whitaker captures people, and he captures the good parts of their lives and the bad parts of their lives, and kind of makes you realize that everyone all around you has a story. So in this story, we meet Jim, who is the cop who's investigating Harry's disappearance. He's a sheriff. And the book kind of takes place a few weeks after, so the hype has died down, the FBI has pulled away, and it's just Jim who's obsessed with this boy's disappearance. Harry's mom, Jess, who you watch through the book slowly losing her mind. She walks around the town hanging up posters of her son picture. She thinks everybody is responsible for him disappearing. There's Max, who is a good-looking guy engaged to be married to Lisa. He owns the Photo Mart, and at Photo Mart there's this overweight young man with a really high voice named Jerry, who seems to be the brunt of everybody's joke, and he's a budding photographer, and he spends the book kind of obsessing about whether or not he should enter a contest for the National Amateur Photography Association. There's Elena, whose husband left. She has a 14-year-old son, Manny, who's a real character, and a 3-year-old daughter named Thalia. And there's Jared, who has blown into town. He's another good-looking guy, and is working for the used car dealership in town. There's French John, who is a gay cake maker, and Henrietta and Roger, who are Harry's aunt and uncle. Roger's obsessed all of a sudden with becoming physically fit, and Henrietta is mourning the death of their child, Thomas. So there's all these characters, and as you go through the book, you keep wondering, is one of these people responsible for Harry's disappearance? And as I went through the book, I'm like, oh, it must be him. No, oh, it must be her. No, oh, it must be him. And I formed many different opinions as I went through the book, and I got to the end, and I still hadn't formed the right opinion, apparently. But again, this book is well worth reading. I would not say it's as strong a book as We Begin at the End, but it's very close to it. I've talked to a couple people who have read We Begin at the End since my last Behind the Book Talks, and they both said that the number of characters was a little overwhelming, and that they wished they had kept a little running tally of who's who when they started the book. And at least two people have said they're going to reread the book, and I myself am going to reread it too, because I found it so good that I was kind of rushing through it, and I'm sure I missed stuff along the way. And even though I know the ending, the book will be well worth the journey again. So my recommendation to you, if you choose to read this book, which I highly recommend, I would at the very beginning just keep a little cheat sheet of who's who and what's what, because I know I found myself stopping a minute and saying, no, wait a minute, who is this person? Anyways, it's a wonderful book. Chris Whitaker is quite a force to be reckoned with. And he has a third book, which I'm going to order too, that was done even before this one. And I'm hoping that we'll hear more from him in the past. And if you haven't tried one of his books, I highly recommend it. Maybe start with this one, kind of get a feel for his writing, and then you'll be even more ready to enjoy We Begin at the end. So that's it. Thanks for listening to Behind the Book Book Talks, and have a great day. See you soon.